Okay, now we're going to be talking about various psychoactive drugs. Psychoactive meaning that they can have an effect on your brain. They can alter your mood, your perception, your thoughts. As you can see, here's an example of a fellow who likes coffee. Well, coffee has a psychoactive drug as its main component, caffeine. And caffeine is a stimulant that increases our alertness and our arousal level, which is why we often like to take it in the morning when we've got to go to work. Now, when you continue to use a drug and you use it frequently, you're going to develop a tolerance to it. In other words, you're going to need more of the drug to have the effect that it used to have. If you had never had any coffee, never taken caffeine, and you take 1 cup of coffee, you're going to feel a jolt. But if you drink coffee every day, the 1 cup may not affect you eventually. Eventually now you need 2 cups, and then eventually 3 cups before you really get that kick that you need. So you develop a tolerance. And when you think about it, the tolerance is where the development of tolerance means that for a particular kind of drug, you might develop a tolerance such that if someone who had never taken the drug before took the same dosage you did, that person could die. While for you, that would be the dosage that would give you the kick that you want. You could see how somebody could develop an overdose because their increasing level of tolerance. So eventually you're going to reach a breaking point where the dosage you need to give you the kick that you're looking for is a dosage high enough to be fatal. Another aspect of the use of psychoactive drugs is the fact that you can become dependent on it. So this is where we talk about the concept of addiction. And if you are addicted to a drug, you might have actual feelings of physical pain and these really, really intense physiological cravings for the drug. And that indicates a physical dependence on it. And when you have that physical dependence, you're going to suffer from withdrawal symptoms when you have not had the drug for a while. So when you stop use, like stopping cold turkey, is actually inviting symptoms of withdrawal. If you are someone who is addicted to heroin, for example, if you just say, okay, I'm going to quit cold turkey right now, well, you're going to suffer withdrawal symptoms and you're going to have those intense cravings. So if you're decided, I think I'm just going to stop, you're probably not going to be successful. It's probably not the best plan if you want to stop using a highly addictive drug like heroin. You might also develop psychological dependence, where you really wish you had the drug. You really miss it. So you associate it with activities that you engage in, and you're engaging in those activities without the drug. It doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel the same. But you're not having that physical pain that comes from withdrawal. So most of the time, with many drugs, there's both a physical component and a psychological component to dependence. Some drugs, such as marijuana, there really isn't evidence of physical dependence. There isn't really evidence of withdrawal symptoms from marijuana use. But there is certainly psychological dependence. So how does the brain become addicted? This is what's happening physiologically. Basically, most of these psychoactive drugs that become addictive, we're talking about drugs that affect the dopamine pathway, the reward pathway in our brain. So this is the same area of our brain in which we are seeking reward and we respond to reward. We do something, we get rewarded for it, we're more likely to do it again. This is natural, the way our brain works. This is the way we learn. Okay? So when we do something rewarded, we are motivated to do it again. And essentially, it's the brain pathways that become strengthened. So, we recognize that leads to reward. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Well, with the psychoactive drugs, like let's say cocaine, those dopamine pathways get really a big hit, and you really, that reward is very powerful, and you really want that reward, so you really go ahead and do that. So it's affecting that brain, really strengthening those neural connections there. So here is where that reward pathway is here. The ventral tegmental area, nucleus accumbens, and the prefrontal cortex. And essentially this is the path that those psychoactive drugs take into your brain. And again, the prefrontal cortex, that's the part where you're planning, and this is where you're going to be finding ways to get that drug, to get it all done, and essentially that's how this is, how we continue to become addicted and keep on going. Psychoactive drugs are put into three basic categories: depressants, stimulants, and hallucinogens. Depressants suppress your bodily processes. They slow everything down. And a common example of a depressant is alcohol. Valium is depressant. Opiates are depressant. So heroin is an example of an opiate. Opium as well, obviously. So those suppress our bodily processes, slow us down. Nevertheless, they're all rewarding. All stimulants, depressants, and hallucinogens, they still activate that reward pathway. We still enjoy the hit that we get from it, the pleasure that we get from the physiological effects. But again, it's that's what essentially what depressants are doing, is they're slowing down those bodily processes, reducing our levels of arousal. Which is why, for example, it's really, really bad to be driving when you are when you're drunk, when you're alcohol intoxicated, because your reaction time is really slowed down, and therefore you're not going to be a very good driver, because you're not going to be able to react to the hazards of the road that we come across. Furthermore, your judgment is impaired, so you're making bad decisions about getting in the car in the first place. So you're making bad decisions, A, and B, your reaction time is slower, so that's a recipe for trouble. Stimulants increase our arousal, increase our alertness. They rev us up. So they kind of have the opposite effect of depressants. Caffeine, nicotine, cocaine, amphetamines, these pump us up. So meth is an example of an amphetamine, a really powerful one. So that's a super powerful stimulant, and also very rewarding, which again makes it hard to quit once you've tried it. Finally, hallucinogens they produce sensory perceptual distortions called hallucinations. So we see and hear and feel things that are not really there. Our perceptions are altered, and we kind of see things a little bit differently. LSD is a very powerful hallucinogen. You actually can, see things that aren't there. Marijuana is more of a mild hallucinogen, but nevertheless it does that. Ecstasy has both stimulant and hallucinogenic properties. But yeah, these are some examples of hallucinogens. So when you think about it, why do people use drugs? Well, there are many, there are different answers to this. The thing about the biopsychosocial model indicates some of the factors going on. Think about biological influences. There are people who are more genetically predisposed to becoming addicted, and the people who are predisposed to becoming addicted to alcohol. Again, you think about that dopamine reward circuit that's going on in everybody's brain. You activate that. Where our response is going to be to repeat the behavior to get that reward. So there's clearly a biological link here. You try it once, and you could be hooked because of those biological influences. Psychological influences. There are a number of reasons why people would try it. There are people who just want to try it. Out of curiosity. There are people who do it, mainly because they're stressed and they use it to relieve stress, like drinking alcohol because you've had a rough day at work. People who have psychological disorders oftentimes use drugs to self-medicate, make themselves feel better. Finally, there are social and cultural influences. You might grow up in a culture where drug use is common and it's accepted, and it's encouraged, and to fit in with the group, you might use drugs that all your friends are using, and you might be influenced by your peers to try it, and so all of these factors, there's no one single explanation about why people use drugs, but again, recognize that it's not so simple as, oh, well, this is a drug addict and this person just deserves to go to jail. It's not quite that simple. There's so many influences that lead people to try drugs in the first place, and there are also influences that make it very, very hard to quit once you start. Okay, so let's talk about another possible altered state of consciousness called hypnosis. And basically, your attention is focused on something else. It's focused on, if we're talking about a person performing hypnosis, your attention is focused on that person, and you become very receptive to that person's suggestions. Now, we are all responsive to suggestion. If someone suggests that we buy product X instead of product Y, we might certainly respond to that suggestion. If a person suggests that we get pizza instead of Chinese food, we might respond to that suggestion as well. But we don't always respond to everybody's suggestion. But when you are undergoing hypnosis, you are more open to suggestions, even suggestions that might be a little bit weird. So basically, to increase the likelihood of someone getting to become hypnotized, minimize distractions, get the person focused on what the person is saying. So you're concentrating on what the person is saying. If the person tells you to concentrate on a ticking watch, the person concentrate on this picture, whatever it is. So you're told to concentrate on that something specific. You are told what you're going to expect. You're going to feel, they tell you you're going to start to feel a little bit sleepy. You're going to feel sleepier again. So they're going to tell you what you're going to feel, and furthermore, they're going to suggest different things that you're going to feel, that you're going to do, and essentially that's the pathway here. So there are individual differences in terms of how likely a person would be hypnotized. There are some people who are not very responsive to suggestions. There are others who are very receptive to it. But bottom line is, a person who is going to be hypnotized, the first thing they would need to have is a willingness to do it. If you are unwilling to be hypnotized, no matter what your susceptibility is, if you are unwilling to be hypnotized, you are not going to be hypnotized. So no one is going to sneak up on you and hypnotize you. Hypnosis, besides using for entertainment purposes, it actually has some therapeutic use. The hypnosis has been used to help people quit smoking, reduce drinking, reduce your pain. You can even use self-hypnosis to kind of convince yourself that the pain is something else. It's waves of water instead of your waves of pain. And you might actually believe your suggestion and essentially feel less pain. So hypnosis does have some therapeutic uses. There's a debate as far as what exactly hypnosis is. And one idea is that hypnosis is an altered, different state of consciousness. So your awareness is split into two parts. One part of you is responding to the hypnosis, the suggestions, and the other part is processing the pain, but at a less conscious level. So you're splitting your consciousness there. Is one interpretation. So you're splitting your consciousness in two. Another perspective is that you're more or less role-playing. The social cognitive process is that you are motivated to believe in hypnosis, and you are working hard to ignore any pain, and you are following with the suggestions. You're kind of playing the role. And if you are playing a role and you're really into that role, you can really live that role. If you think about anybody who's tried acting, cognitive method acting, you don't just pretend that you're sad if you want to be sad in a movie. If you want to play someone who's sad, you actually have to make yourself sad to actually be sad, or actually be angry if you want to portray someone who is angry. And that's the idea behind method acting. Well, you can relate this to hypnosis as well. You are playing the role and really playing it deeply, then it certainly could be considered hypnosis here, but you're not necessarily dividing your consciousness. Meditation is a very effective technique for relaxation. If you're dealing with stress, this is a really good thing to do. You want to focus your attention on something, not necessarily the thing that is causing you stress. You focus on one simple thing, maybe a mantra. You could be saying a single word, over and over again to yourself as you breathe. You're focusing on your breathing. You're focusing on relaxing all of your muscles, and you just can just pay attention to your breathing. Focus your attention on the one thing that you're choosing to focus on, the mantra, let's say, and it really relaxes you. It lowers your heart rate. It can help you cope with pain, and so it's a really good practice to do, and it gives you a little bit of kind of like a power nap. So oftentimes if you're under a lot of stress, maybe you're not getting enough sleep, maybe take 15 or 20 minutes to meditate, and you can make yourself feel a lot better. I've done it, and it does seem to work. So and again, you think of meditation as kind of like this different kind of state of consciousness, like very relaxed, but nevertheless maybe focused on one thing. So it could be a focus, but it's nevertheless a relaxed focus. Who knows? But it is it's certainly an effective way for you to kind of relax and cope with stress.